Hello and welcome to Dunstan Kiwi Bred. I'm Alicia Nielsen and I look forward to spending the next half hour with you as we take a look at the New Zealand thoroughbred breeding industry. This week we're at White Robe Lodge in the South Island to share the farm's history and to take a look at their current stallion roster. I had the pleasure of sitting down with Brian Anderton to discuss how his dynasty all began. Brian, you were born into a family entrenched in racing. You were riding before you could walk and you're still very much involved in the racing game. But tell us how you came to be in the breeding side of the industry.
My father had a stallion when I was very small called Sir Galloway, and he used to ride a bike around the area and lead the horse and go to the owners and cover the mare and then bring him back home again. And I was a great reader. I read on the Aga Khan and Tisha and all those fellas, and I was intrigued with breeding. So I was a great one to do pedigrees, but it took me weeks and weeks to do a tabulated pedigree. It's not like the computer now. But I used to look for nicks and crosses and go from there.
You always had ambition to become a stud master, and at the age of 18 you got the opportunity. It was 1956 and you bought your first stallion, Harkin. However, your first big break didn't come until you stood Malay, who you bought for 3,000 guineas. How did that purchase come about?
Well, I was at the Omakau races, and we always kept the horses out at White's farm, and they had their mares, they bred them every second year because they couldn't afford to send them away every year. And anyhow, we're in a hotel after the races on the Saturday night, and it was Johnny and Neil and Dad and I, and I commented about lovely foals they had there, and they said they weren't sending the mares away, and I said, well, you ever thought about buying a stallion? So it started from there.
Brian, what were your thoughts on Malay when he arrived?
Oh, Malay was a nice horse, chestnut with a star on his head, and he was only a young horse when he arrived, and he was quite light looking when they used to come out from England on the boat, but he just kept developing, and in the finish he was a beautiful horse, but he had a bad nature, that horse. He just about everyone that worked for me, he dealt with him, and he got me not once, several times. And if he's in a bad mood, I would hop on his back and ride him around the paddock and give him a bit of a canter around and everything else, and he just seemed to relax.
Well, it's no secret Malay really put White Robe Lodge on the map. He was named champion sire twice. He sired 26 stakes winners, top winners including Swell Time, Princess Malay, Brown Satin and Rose Malay. Which of his progeny really stood out for you?
Well, I suppose being Mum's horse, Princess Malay, always had a soft spot for her, and she carried on and ended up a really good broodmare, and we're still breeding from her granddaughters now.
You're pretty lucky, Brian, because you struck gold twice with the arrival of Noble Bijou, who was a wonderful old stallion for you. He sired 59 stakes winners, including the Phantom Chance and the Phantom, remarkably crowned 4 times New Zealand champion sire and 5-time champion broodmare sire. How did he come to be part of the White Robe story?
Well, it was through a tragedy we got him when Malay died. I was, devastated, and I got a phone call from Lyle Mortimer, and he said he had this impeccably bred horse for sale. So them days, you telegraph things and so forth, and I said, well, write his pedigree out and put it on the plane and send it down and let me know what plane it's on. So Dad and I went down to the airport and got up the road a bit and pulled over the side of the road, and of course I vaguely know about a priceless gem once again by a champion, out of a champion. So his description of him wasn't that flashy. They said he was pig-eyed and stood straight in front, but he was a big horse and stood over a lot of ground. He he grew into himself. He never probably developed properly till he was 6-year-old, but no, he carried on, and he was just out. He was out of favour with the breeders too. When it came to March, as a 3-year-old, his oldest were 3. that's when they started to kick in, and he never looked back after that. But the Ali Robertson, who broke a lot of them in, said they've got to be all right, they've got a brain, and anyhow he was correct. But he done a great job for us.
In 1959, you and Lorraine purchased a property on Wingatui Road. It was about 3 acres in Mosgiel. You set up White Robe Lodge. As Noble Bijou's success grew, so did you.
Oh,
How
for sure.
much has the property grown over the years?
Well, yeah, we got 300 acres here, and there's 175 at Ardgown, and then Middlemarch we got 160 acres, which is a godsend. We winter the mares up there in the winter, and that's a big asset to us.
You were a bit ahead of your time with importing that good European blood, so what sparked that?
Well, I was a contributor towards the British Blood Horse, was a magazine that used to come out a few times a year, and I really I couldn't get it quick enough to read it, and I read about all these marvellous horses. You're able to pick those lovely horses up like I did that had been injured, and they were in our price bracket and pedigrees. I think that when I was buying those horses, it was the best place to buy them.
You've seen all types of stallions come and go at White Robe Lodge, Brian, but the most underrated in your book was Yaman and Vital.
Oh, for sure.
Why was that?
Well, he had the hard road as hoe, where he got a lot of ordinary mares, but he was able to update them, and some of them had a bit of a temperament problem. They didn't want a lot of galloping, but they were tough as old boots.
White Robe Lodge really is a family-run business. Your son Shane's your training partner. He also does all the foaling here. Your daughter Karen and her husband Wayne, they run the stud. Has that been the key to the success?
Oh yes, I think the family are pretty committed, and anyhow we got Liz who does a night shift. Shane and Sharon watch him till she comes on, and Liz has been working for me for 40 years.
And of course, behind every great man is a great woman, and you've certainly got one of those in Lorraine. You met her at 21, you're at a local dance. Do you think you could have done all this without her by your side?
Oh no, she's been my right arm, and anyhow, as well as rearing our children, she's reared a lot of apprentices, and she done her share of the night watch, and sometimes we used to just pass, she'd be going to bed and I'd be getting up, but anyhow, no, she's worked hard and been a very, very big important part to the business.
Well, Brian, you've notched up an incredible list of New Zealand and Australasian races that White Robe bred horses have won. That must be a great feeling.
Oh, it's a great thrill, yeah, it's a great thrill, and you get a lot of enjoyment out of it, a lot of enjoyment.
You've had some tremendous highs in the breeding industry, and you've got there through sheer hard work. What's been your approach to it all?
Well, you get nothing for nothing, so you got to put a bit of effort into it, and I've been lucky too. I've been rewarded, and I think that sort of keys you on a bit more.
Brian, you've had an indelible influence on the racing and breeding industry in New Zealand. You, of course, won the Outstanding Contribution to Racing Award. You're a Hall of Fame inductee. At the end of the day, when you put your feet up, how do you feel about all these achievements?
Oh, when it first happens, you sort of, you get a bit of a shock and say, well, did I deserve this or did I earn it? But then, when you sit back and you think about it, you say, well, I've put everything into it. So just a bit of a reward, I think.